I got to go out there and I got to go visit all the offices. These are the staff that I'm going to be working with. I want to make sure that they meet me in person, that we have an opportunity to connect and review strategy and make sure we're deploying our resources in the right way. So it has been a lot trying to get out there, not only visit all these offices, but go to the overseas buyers conferences and all the different opportunities to travel. So it's been busy, but it's been rewarding and it's been worth it so far, I think.
That was Brian Liedl with US Wheat Associates. My name is Aaron Harries. This is the Wheats on Your Mind podcast. Wheats on Your Mind is brought to you by the Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Brian Liedl joined US Wheat Associates on July 1st, 2025 as Vice President of Overseas Operations, a role previously held by Mike Spear, who was named U.S. Wheat President upon the retirement of Vince Peterson. Brian brings 2 decades of experience in wheat trading and logistics, most recently serving as Director of Merchandising at United Grain Corporation in the Pacific Northwest. He began his career as a market analyst at CHS Hedging, and he is based in U.S. Wheat's Portland office. Brian also served as an industry representative on the Washington Grain Board before joining U.S. Wheat Associates, so he's been on both sides of the table. Brian, glad to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. That's quite a great introduction you gave me. I really feel honored to be here and happy to help out any way I can.
That's great to have you. Before we get into the market data, and since you're first time here on the podcast, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to U.S. Wheat Associates?
Yeah, absolutely. Long-time listener of the pod, first-time caller, so thank you for having me. My journey to U.S. Wheat's been, as you described, kind of one through the industry side. I started with CHS back in the day. My first job was actually working in the pit at the Minneapolis Grain Exchange. So the first couple of years before the open outcry shut down, I was probably the last new person to the Minneapolis Grain Exchange pit, but that was a great experience to kind of get my feet wet. As you said, working for CHS Hedging was a great place to learn the business. A lot of customers that were co-ops, farmers, spring wheat growers across the Northern Plains. So good opportunity to learn the business and kind of get my feet wet. After that, I was able to get the opportunity to move out to the Pacific Northwest and work for United Grain. Started there as a junior spring wheat merchant, then was promoted to be the head of HRW and Durham trading, then the head of soft white wheat trading, and then eventually the director of all merchandising. So that was corn, beans, wheat, everything we did off the P&W plus our origination programs. So got a lot of cool opportunities to work overseas with buyers and work a lot with U.S. Wheat. So that's where I got familiar with the work U.S. Wheat does. Always held them in really high esteem. It was great to see how they had built such strong relationships with the customers. And when the opportunity came to join the team, Mike reached out about a year ago, and I couldn't pass up this opportunity. So it's been a busy first year, but I'm happy to be here.
Perfect resume for the position. You stepped into the role as VP of Overseas Operations right at the beginning of the last marketing year, July 1st, 2025. So we can jump right into it. We've just ended the marketing year on the end of May. That being your first year in that role, we had really good exports, near record exports for wheat. So go ahead and take credit for that.
Yeah, thank you. And you're welcome, everyone. No, just kidding, of course. Obviously, the hard work was done by the growers. I mean, it was producing such a great crop last year. Big bushels, good quality. It really made the transition easy for me. We had buyers around the world lining up to get their hands on it. Obviously, the high production led to very attractive prices. And then, 70 years of market development in a lot of these markets meant we were in the right place at the right time. So we were able to capitalize on that. Over 900 million bushels of export sales. It was a great year. We hit near records or records in a lot of markets. The customers were happy. The bushels were flying off the shelves. So it was a great first year to be here. Now, obviously, if I want to take credit for last year, I'm going to have to earn my keep this year. It's going to be a lot more challenging this year with the kind of inverse situation with production. Prices will be a lot higher, but that means we're going to have to take those customers that were so eager to buy very attractive price bushels last year and convert them into consistent buyers this year, even at higher prices. So we got our work cut out for us, that's for sure.
In a year where there was a lot of bushels and record crops in a lot of markets, the fact that customers did come to U.S. Wheat, that still says a lot about their preference, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the work that US Wheat's done, that the growers have done over the years, has really built such a strong reputation for US Wheat around the world. I mean, every market I go to, I hear the same story over and over again, and that they love our quality. They love the service they get from US Wheat, the technical support, the help with their bakers, the end use customers. It's a testament to all the work that's been done over the years that US Wheat has such a strong reputation in markets around the world. So when they were able to get the bushels at very attractive prices, they were eager as all get out. And then this year, I mean, the questions we're fielding now are how can we continue to get this product even with the higher price? How can we extract that value? And that's what we're shifting into this year with our work.
It's great to have you on Aaron's podcast. Next time we would do this, hopefully we can have you here in the bunker with us. Look forward to getting you back out here to Kansas. Thinking about your timeline, our timelines overlapped a little bit. I think that time you were at Minneapolis, that's about the time I was spending some time in Kansas City at the Board of Trade and seeing that transition happen with the open outcry to electronic trading. And your wealth of experience, I know the leadership transition that we're having at U.S. Wheat Associates with Mike coming on board and bringing you on board. Everybody is super excited, but it was a double-edged sword because when you did take this position as Vice President Overseas Operations, a lot of us were glad to see that, but boy, we sure missed having you on the commercial side and all of the work that you did on the commercial side representing farmers. But glad to have you on board, and glad Aaron was able to catch you because you have had a whirlwind first year traveling. And so I think he caught you in one of the 3 days that you aren't traveling this year. So that's great to have you in. But as you've gotten a chance to make that transition, and you're super familiar already with U.S. Wheat Associates, but in your first year, how has that been seeing some of the activities from the U.S. Wheat position versus the commercial position and those interactions with customers? And how's that transition been in seeing on the other side of the table?
Great question. Good comments, Justin. And just to revert back to the beginning there, yeah, actually the first time you and I met, I was just looking through some old paperwork here, was 2008 on the North Dakota crop tour. I got to ride with you back in those days. I was just a young buck getting in the business, and you were kind of blazing a trail that was one to emulate. I followed you kind of going from the commercial side over to representing the producers. It's been a good transition for me. Yeah, I miss parts of being on the commercial side. There was a lot of great relationships and a lot of good business that got done, but over here on the US Wheat side, it's actually even more rewarding. It's one thing I always really loved about working with US Wheat Associates was how well they interact with the customers. And those were the same customers I dealt with when I was on the commercial side. So getting to see how much respect they had for the in-country staff, the foreign offices, that's really what gave me the motivation to make this change. And I'm really glad I had the opportunity to do it. But as you said, it's been a whirlwind. We got 13 offices around the world. One of the things I said to Mike Spear, my boss, when I got on this position as Vice President of Overseas Operations, is I got to go out there and I got to go visit all the offices. These are the staff that I'm going to be working with. I want to make sure that they meet me in person, that we have an opportunity to connect and review strategy and make sure we're deploying our resources in the right way. So it has been a lot trying to get out there, not only visit all these offices, but go to the overseas buyers conferences and all the different opportunities to travel. So it's been busy, but it's been rewarding and it's been worth it so far, I think.
Well, speaking of customers, Brian, I mean, looking back at the 25-26 marketing year, a couple of countries that always come to mind when we talk about hard red winter wheat in Kansas are Mexico and Nigeria. We just sent off a Nigerian trade team, a couple of gentlemen from Olam Milling. But boy, that last marketing year was huge for Mexico, 41.6 million metric tons, almost 153 million bushels. So we're talking about renegotiating USMCA. Mexico is a huge market for us. How healthy is that trade with Mexico, do you think? And what's the outlook for Nigeria?
Yeah, both were great markets for us last year. Big increases we saw. Mexico up something like 40%, Nigeria up over 100% year-on-year change. Those were great. It was great to see and great to be a part of that. Now, as you said, we got some work to do ahead of us this year, starting with Mexico. Yeah, the USMCA trade negotiations are opening and ongoing. That is something, as the wheat industry, and we want to see go smoothly. I think it's been a good deal for the U.S. wheat farmers. The numbers bear that out, and it's our number one export market. It's a market we invest a lot of resources in, and it's been a good return on investment so far. Obviously, in this heightened political environment with trade negotiations ongoing, we're just trying our best to keep supporting the customers in Mexico, making sure they're getting the value, the technical support they need, and we'll let the governments work out what they need to work out. Thankfully, we got one of the best policy guys in the business, Mr. Dalton Henry, working down there in Manhattan, co-sharing office space with you guys. So he'll stay on top of that for our growers, and we'll make sure that we support our side of the negotiation as best we can and make sure our customers get the value they need. Nigeria is a little bit of a different story. It's more of a swing market, one that was a big U.S. market for a lot of years, but with the rise of the Black Sea exports 15 years ago, it's been one that's been a lot more competitive. Though it is one where we're seeing some inroads being made. It's definitely a growing market, a market where quality is starting to become more of a factor. 15 years ago, it was price and price only, but that's starting to change. Companies like Olam, big international milling concerns, are trying to make sure that their flour brands, their wheat products are as good as anywhere in the world. So it is someplace where we see growth opportunities going forward. This year, we're going to have to see how we can convert those price buyers to quality buyers in a higher priced year. I think we faced stiff competition last year. You had record crops in places like Argentina, near record crops in the Black Sea. So even in that highly competitive environment, we were able to find market share, and hopefully we can hang on to that this year. But that's going to be our job for the next 12 months.
Yeah, and I know in the Southeast Asia, markets, those are something that have been a real strong point for U.S. wheat, and right in the area that you've worked really closely in, and in years like this, we're trying to maintain and grow that market share, whether it's the Philippines or Taiwan or Thailand, and those markets are so critical for U.S. wheat growers, even though we may get focused on what's going out of the Texas Gulf sometimes, but it's all impactful to the U.S. wheat farmer when we are able to move a bushel of wheat out of the United States. How are things looking in the Asia markets, Brian?
Yeah, good question, Justin. And to your point, yeah, rising tide floats all vessels, right? So a bushel of Montana HRW going off the P&W is just one less bushel that the Kansas farmer has to worry about coming to the mills down south. So we're all pulling in the same direction here. This year, it's going to be just like we were talking about with Nigeria. It's going to be interesting with the competition. Last year, we had record crop in Australia, but we still managed to do record volume to some of the markets down there, thanks to the good work of our staff in Manila and Singapore. With the El Nino this year, we expect Australian production to take a setback that probably percentage-wise will not be much different than what we see here in the U.S. So hopefully that allows us to maintain that market share even at elevated prices. The work we've done with the millers in Indonesia and the Philippines are some of our closest relationships in Asia. So I think the opportunities are there. Those markets are still growing, and they got a taste for U.S. wheat. And the niche we occupy cannot easily be replaced thanks to all that technical support we've done over the years.
Yeah. So as you're getting so many touch points and in front of customers and people you've had relationships with for such a long time, this environment you mentioned is just so unique with the geopolitical dynamics and everything that's happening globally. I'd just be curious, what are some of the first things that come up when talking to some of those people you have such good relationships with and talking about potential business? Is it wheat first? Is it geopolitical issues first? Or some of those guys may be asking how your family's doing first. I don't know.
Yeah, you get a mix of everything out there. I mean, thankfully, being in the market for a long time and U.S. Wheat doing the long-term market development, there's plenty of how's the family, how's the kids, when's the next time you're coming to town? We got to make sure we get together. And those relationships really carry a lot of weight in the world trade. Obviously, one of the things you didn't mention on your short list there, but is always front and center is price. That's something we don't control, but it's something that is ever present. Obviously, the millers and buyers are your mirror image of the growers. Price matters a lot. They just always have a bunch of reasons why price should be lower, just like our growers have a bunch of reasons why price should be higher. And we're trying to make sure we shift that conversation away from just, well, here's the price, what's the price tomorrow, to what's the value of the product? How can we help support you and make sure you're getting a better margin, not just a lower price? So there's a little bit of everything when it comes to these relationships. I think we're trying our best to make sure that these customers keep their eye on the ball, the long game here, that we want to make sure that they're building a better product, they're building loyalty with their customers. So no matter what the price of a bushel of wheat does, their customers are going to come with them because the product is better. And that's what we tell our farmers, and that's what we tell the mills overseas as well.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I'd like to maybe get your perspective also. And I know you watch global S&Ds and production and trajectories pretty closely. When you think about, competition, and everybody's familiar with where we've seen Black Sea or Russian wheat and their increase in production and where they're at on total exports and what that's meant to global world wheat trade. But if you narrow down more on what the projection of total global wheat trade is, what's your thoughts on 5 to 10 years and why there might be some optimism for U.S. wheat farmers as far as where has the low fruit already been picked on production and export side out of the Black Sea, and is that global wheat consumption increases, but so is global wheat trade? What's your thoughts on those type trajectories, Brian?
Think about this a lot, as I'm sure all of us in the business do. And I think something that's undersold is just how wildly bullish the demand side of the spectrum has been. I mean, we always focus on the competition and the supply. Like we talked about the last 15 years about Russian production going from 40 million tons to 90 million tons. Oh my gosh, that's so much additional. But you look at the world S&D and we're pretty much balanced. I mean, we've actually consumed more wheat than we've produced 3 of the last 5 years in the world, even with these big increases in the Black Sea, in Australia. I mean, last year, record crops in Argentina and Canada. I mean, the world absorbed this kind of without blinking an eye. So when you have years where we're going to have some setbacks in production, whether it's in the US or other places around the world, the S&D is pretty well balanced. I mean, we got decent stocks this year, but the USDA says we're going to consume again this year more wheat than the world's going to produce. So I think the fact that the demand side has been so bullish is underrepresented in the conversation. We need to focus on that we need to keep figuring out ways to produce wheat and produce more wheat. Yeah, I would love it if the competition wasn't as strong, but I mean, that's just a symptom of having a world that likes wheat. It's number 1 calorie consumed in the world. It's a great source as far as carbohydrates go. It's a carbohydrate that includes protein. It has fiber. It's a healthy product that we I think undersell as an industry. I think as you go forward with a world population that might be leveling off a little bit, we got to find ways to increase that per capita consumption as we lose that tailwind of just population growth. But we're still going to have that for the next 20 years at least. And you got an aging population in the world that's going to be more interested in things like fiber and protein, things that wheat can provide. So I think going forward, wheat's got a great story. And we're going to continue to see the world want more of it. And we're going to find ways at US Wheat that our wheat answers that world demand.
In that context, of the bullish demand, it's disappointing that our hard red winter wheat production here in the United States just isn't going to match up with what it was last year. So as we enter this new marketing year, those are the challenges we face on the supply side. What's the messaging that we can keep in front of our customers on a year like this where we're kind of short on our crop?
Yeah, Aaron, I think we got to continue to demonstrate value. I mean, again, we don't control price. No one controls the price. Really, what we're offering is a value proposition. How does the HRW out of Kansas, out of the U.S. Southern Plains, out of the United States, how does that stack up in the global matrix as far as end use value? And I think we stack up great. I mean, it's a high quality wheat. It's got good protein. It's generally low in moisture. It has great milling and baking characteristics. The world understands that. And yeah, at times there are cheaper alternatives, but that's going to cost you something on your end use when it comes for a lower input cost, but a lower quality product. Is that what your customers are going to want? It's something I try and talk with mills and bakeries around the world. I mean, If your customer wants a lower quality product, then there are lower quality wheats out there you can definitely pursue. But everything I hear from customers around the world is their customers are demanding higher quality, better end use characteristics. And that's something at US Wheat, along with our partners here in the US, the great universities and labs, whether that's IGP, Wheat Marketing Center, NCI, the universities in Fargo, Manhattan, or Pullman, we're doing a great job producing good wheat. And we just need to make sure that our customers see that value.
Yeah, that's a great point. We did eyes open wide when we have our friends from Nigeria here at the Kansas Wheat Innovation Center, and they just see how much science goes into those varieties that farmers are growing and that we're keeping on the cutting edge of technology. So your outlook for the current marketing year then, you touched on it a little bit, but we're always looking for new markets and expanding markets. Give us kind of a preview of some places you're focusing in on.
Yeah, this year it's going to be, like you said, with the lower production in the Southern Plains. For HRW specifically, it's going to be focusing on retention. Going to those markets that we had the big gains in last year, whether that was places like Venezuela, Nigeria, Mexico, big increases in demand. How can we convert those customers to see, even at a higher price, you're still going to want US wheat? And that's going to be the work we do consistently with millers and bakers. Are there blends we can produce that help? In these markets, we face stiff competition from places like Canada. But, if you use a blend of 60% HRW and maybe 40% HRS, can we come closer to matching that price point with better end use quality? These are things we have millers and marketing staff around the world that are working with these customers to try and solve, and in essence, make sure that they're getting a better value than what they're getting from the competition. So it's going to be a very focused year on customer retention. I think Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, we made good inroads last year, and now it's kind of test that thesis. Can we get those customers to stick with us even in a higher priced year?
Yep, great timing. U.S. Wheat Associates sending a Brazilian trade team, Justin, a Venezuelan trade team up here in July. So it's a great opportunity for us to share that messaging.
Brian will be with a lot of the buyers from Latin America with a buyers conference next month, and right on cue with that messaging.
Well, Brian, I don't know, did Vince Peterson leave the crystal ball in the Portland office there when he retired? Let's finish on Justin's favorite subject, with is Russia. What's the crystal ball say for the Russia-Ukraine situation this year?
I wish we would have written something in Vince's contract so we could keep our hands on that thing. It's MIA right now. From my limited perspective, what I'm seeing here is you're going to have Russian production be good again. The production was good last year. It's going to be roughly the same this year. It does seem like the trend we've seen over time has been their prices have been stickier. Campaign over campaign, the last 4 or 5 years, we haven't seen the prices cratering as much at harvest as we have in the past. What used to be, you could depend on competition from Russia at $200 a metric ton, became $215, became $230 last year. They had trouble getting under $240 a metric ton. And I think some of the same issues that our growers here in the US face, growers around the world are facing. That is higher input costs, higher energy costs, that they're having to turn their focus more on how do we make a profit instead of how do we just dump bushels on the market. So Russia will be competition. It is every year, but I don't see them trying to chase this market down the hole. And they're going to see the same thing that we're seeing, and that's global production across the board is going to take a step back. I mean, we had world record production last year, and in a smaller production year, they're not going to see the need to chase this market down a hole. So bushels are going to be smaller, but price is going to be higher. And that's going to be the same for our farmers as it is going to be for farmers around the world.
It's a great point.
Brian, I appreciate you being with us today and wish you the best on all your travels. I know I think you've made it to every single office, right? Have you made it to each region? Is there any that you haven't made it to yet?
I think I'm down to the last 3. I got to get North Africa, Europe, and China checked off the list, and then we'll be there. But we got some plans already in the works to visit those ones, so we're getting close. And I really appreciate you guys having me on here. I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. I mean, this podcast is great messaging to get out there. I think the U.S. wheat farmer has a good staff working for them in Kansas. Hopefully we hold up our end of the bargain here at US Wheat Associates. I think it's important that we remember that farmer profitability has to be our number one kind of northern star here when it comes to the wheat growers. We need to make sure that they're getting good return on their dollars. So hopefully we can continue to hold up our end of the bargain. Obviously, Kansas Wheat Commission, you guys do a great job setting the guiding light for all of us. So I really appreciate all the work you guys do.
Thanks for those kind words, Brian. You'll certainly be a regular guest on this podcast. Thanks for your time now, and we'll talk to you further down the road.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you.
My thanks to Brian Liedl for being my guest on this episode of the podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with your friends and subscribe. You can find previous episodes at wheatsonyourmind.com. Thanks for listening.